Colin, welcome to Learn Somatics. Today I'm going to show you two variations on arch and flatten. Arch and flatten is one of the most fundamental movements you will learn when you learn somatics. It's about flexing and extending the lumbar spine. I just want to show you how you can change position to get more out of this move. Not to get more out of it, but to have a couple of different takes on it and give it a slightly different flavour when you're doing it. So I'm going to show you two variations now. Again, you can give them a try and see if you like them. So again, with arch and flatten, we're going to start with our legs bent, feet flat. With an arch and flatten, all we're really doing is arching the lower back like so that we increase the space underneath the body, underneath the lower back. The tail goes down and the pelvis rolls towards the feet. And then when we release, the pelvis starts to roll back this way, and we can roll it back this way a bit more, pressing the low back into the floor so that there's no space underneath my low back now, and the belly tightens. So that looks like so. Go back and forth. We go into arch, we go into flatten, we go into arch that way, and we go into flatten. Arch and flatten. So we flatten, the back gets pressed down, the belt line in the back gets pressed down, and when we arch, the belt line in the back gets raised up and the tail goes down. You'll feel a contraction in your low back when you go that way, and a contraction in your belly when you flatten down. So that's a really brief recap on arch and flatten. So what can we do to make this slightly different? So there's lots of very simple things you can do. I'm going to show you two simple things you can do. First thing you can do is just cross your legs. So your legs are hip width apart, just cross one leg over the other. And what you'll notice what happens is now, because I've crossed my legs, my left hip is actually a little higher. It's just a little bit off the table, just slightly. And there's more weight in the right side of my hip. And you may need to adjust your foot position for this, a bit away from you. But now if I arch, what happens is I'll tend to arch into the right side of my hip. So I'm not going down the middle anymore because of the position of my legs and hips. I'm going off to one side. So this just allows me to arch into one side of my back with a little more focus. And from there just slowly relax. So again, we're just arching our back, but we've got the legs crossed. It changes the position of the hip, which gives it a new flavour and allows us to get into one side of the back. And then slowly releasing and then pressing the back down, so we get the same thing again. We're contracting the belly, which presses the back down, but again, we're contracting one side of the back down into the table more. We're flattening one side of the back more than the other. So we'll just do that a couple of times. Arch into one side, flatten a little bit into one side. You can inhale as you arch and exhale as you flatten. One more time, inhale to arch and exhale to flatten. And with arch and flatten, if you're taking your time and being careful, you don't have to do a massive amount of repetitions. So we'll just lay her flat and see how that feels. And you should feel like one side of your back has had more attention when you do that. I can feel a little bit more space on my right hand side back than on my left hand side back. Perfect. So if you do have a pain that's in your back but it's sort of shifted off to one side, you can use this as a way to maybe focus in on that a little more. So let's just switch sides. Again, the foot might need to move away so you've got space to arch into. And now we're going to arch onto this side. So now the right side hip is a little off the table and the left side hip is a little more down on the table. So when I arch, it's going to send more focus into the left side of my lower back. And then slowly release. And I think I should have done this side first for me. So arch, back raises up. You can see there's space under, I can get my hand under, and then when I flatten, I'm pressing down into my hand now. I'm going to arch. My hip is on the table, but I've lifted my low back off my hand, and when I flatten, I'm pressing my low back down into my hand. And again, because the legs are crossed, there's just more focus into one side. And notice the head is moving because I'm arching and flattening my back. Arching, slowly flattening down. Arch and flatten's a great movement. Really get into the habit of doing this regularly. And flatten. Okay, so we've done both sides. You can lay it flat. And again, just see how that feels. And that's starting to feel quite a bit better. Now, what's interesting to do after you've done the two sides is go back to the regular old arch and flatten, arch down the middle, and see how that feels. You may find that it feels cleaner, like there's a more cleaner line down the middle. There's less deviation off to one side. By going all the way right and all the way left, you're able to find the centre. Okay. So that's one change you can make with the lower part of the body when you're doing arch and flatten. Here's a simple thing you can do with the upper part of the body when you're doing arch and flatten. So if I simply turn my head to the left and leave it there, and then now if I continue to arch and flatten, now this feels slightly different because I've turned my head. So the feedback into my neck is a little different. So again, just by making a very simple change, I can get some more mileage out of this movement and get some new feedback into my brain and my muscles. So everything's the same. I'm flattening and I'm arching. And again, you'll notice my head is moving a little bit, and that's because of what's happening down here. I'm not actually intentionally moving my head. It's getting dragged this way, and then it's getting ever so slightly pushed this way when I flatten. Okay, good. Come back to the middle, see how that feels. You'll get a little more change up into the upper part of your back and neck on this side. Now the obvious thing to do is turn my head to the other side and just do a couple of repetitions going that way. So my head is to the right, and again I'm just arching and flattening. Arching, slowly release, flattening. Always going slow, paying attention to what it feels like to arch, and paying attention to what it feels like to flatten. Just one more repetition. There's the arch, head stays to the right, and into the flatten. Okay, and again, lay it flat, and see how that feels. For bonus, you can cross your leg and turn your head. So I'll let you play with that one yourself.